Good evening. You are looking live at the Ariane 5 at the Guiana Space Center in South America. Ariane Space is counting down towards the final launch of this workhorse rocket that first flew in 1996. As far as we know, everything is going smoothly with the countdown, although we've not received any updates in the last 45 minutes from Ariane Space. At this point, the rocket should be fully loaded with liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. That process began about 5 hours before liftoff, and to fill the core stage, that usually takes about 2 hours. Conditioning of the Vulcan 2 first stage engine at the base of the rocket should have been underway, and communication checks should have taken place. A final weather briefing will come at the T-minus 10-minute point. This final Ariane 5 is carrying 2 satellites, and it will insert them into a geostationary transfer orbit. It's carrying the Heinrich-Hertz mission and the Syracuse 4B satellite. Syracuse 4B is a French military communication satellite. It will provide secure communications for the French military. And the Heinrich-Hertz satellite is going to test communications technologies for the German Space Agency. This will be the 117th mission for the Ariane 5. The rocket is being retired and will be replaced by the Ariane 6. However, that rocket is not expected to fly until next year. The Ariane 5 was once the dominant launcher in the commercial satellite business. Its position has very much been eroded by SpaceX, which has offered lower priced launches with its reusable Falcon 9 rocket. The 65-minute launch window today opens at 7 p.m. local time in Kourou, French Guiana. That's 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or 2200 UTC. If you're just joining us, you're looking at a live view of the Ariane 5 rocket standing on pad ELA-3 at the Guiana Space Center. That's the European spaceport in South America, in French Guiana. Rocket was rolled to the launch pad on Monday. The launch was scheduled for yesterday, but was delayed due to upper level winds that were out of limits. Earlier today, Ariane Space reported that the upper level wind conditions were forecast to be good for today's launch. This Ariane 5 was originally scheduled for launch on June 16th, but the launch was delayed to replace some pyrotechnic transmission lines on the vehicle. Those suspect systems are responsible for jettisoning one of the two solid rocket boosters. The problem was discovered with those pyrotechnic lines on another project, and after Ariane Space inspected the pyrotechnic lines on the Ariane 5 rocket, they discovered problems that required replacement, and that resulted in the launch being delayed until yesterday, and then we had another 24-hour delay due to the weather. These views from the Guiana Space Center are coming to us courtesy of Ariane Space. Ariane Space is the company that markets the Ariane family of rockets, provides commercial launch services, and operates the vehicles. During its 27 years in service, the Ariane 5 has launched 237 satellites to date. 2 more will be launched on tonight's rocket. There is the Syracuse 4B French military communication satellite and the Heinrich-Hertz mission, a technology demonstration mission for Germany. The Ariane 5 has a 96% success rate. Its first launch in 1996 ended in failure. And the second launch a year later was only partially successful. Now less than 30 minutes from the launch of the final Ariane 5. We're hoping to receive an update from Ariane Space shortly on the status of the countdown. It does appear that Ariane Space has a green board for tonight's launch. Appears they are not working any issues that are being reported on the screens at the front of the Launch Control Center. In about 15 minutes, at T-minus 10 minutes, there will be a final weather briefing, and then the computer-controlled synchronized countdown sequence will begin 7 minutes before launch. This will pressurize the propellant tanks and switch the vehicle to onboard power. Transfer the rocket's guidance system to flight mode. The Vulcan 2 rocket at the base of the Ariane 5's core stage will ignite at 0. The ignition sequence will last about 7 seconds, and ignition of the twin solid rocket boosters, which are strapped to either side of the core stage, will not occur until the clock reaches T+7 seconds. During that ignition sequence, a health check will be conducted of the engine to make sure it is running properly. With the rocket now fully fueled for launch, the vehicle weighs 1.7 million pounds. At liftoff, those solid rocket boosters and the liquid hydrogen fueled Vulcan 2 engine will produce 2.9 million pounds of thrust. If you haven't done so already, please hit the thumbs up or the like button. That really helps us promote our stream, bring a bigger audience to our launch coverage. The 17-meter tall fairing at the top of the Ariane 5 contains the two satellites. They are positioned with the Heinrich-Hertz satellite on top, and beneath that, inside a cylinder payload adapter, is the Syracuse 4B satellite for France. One of the features of the Ariane 5 was that it regularly performed dual launches. Its capacity was high enough that it could launch two satellites into geostationary transfer orbit on every launch. In addition to launching commercial satellites, the Ariane 5 has launched some major science missions, including the Rosetta, Herschel, Planck, Bepi-Colombo, and JUICE missions. The JUICE mission was most recently the last Ariane launch that occurred earlier this year. And in December 2021, the Ariane 5 launched the James Webb Space Telescope, perhaps its most important launch of its entire career. We're now 15 minutes from the launch of the final Ariane 5 rocket. You can see the sun is starting to set in Kourou in French Guiana, where the Ariane 5 is standing on Launch Zone 3 at the Guiana Space Center. It appears we still have a green board in the Launch Control Center at Kourou. A final check of the weather will come at T-minus 10 minutes. If you're just joining us, you're looking live at the final Ariane 5 rocket standing at Launch Zone 3 at the Guiana Space Center in French Guiana in South America. This European workhorse rocket is being retired after 27 years of service. This will be the 117th flight for the rocket since 1996. We're now coming up on that final check on the weather. At the present time, the board at the front of the Launch Control Center is all green. Everything looking good for the final launch of the Ariane 5. The computerized synchronized sequence, which will assume control of the countdown, will begin at T-minus 7 minutes. This will perform the final tasks to place the rocket and the launch pad into configuration for liftoff. We're not hearing that the launch team is working any problems. Everything so far remains green. We're approaching the start of the synchronized sequence. Just run through the flight sequence after liftoff. Liftoff will occur at T plus 7 seconds. We'll have separation of the solid rocket boosters, 2 minutes and 21 seconds into flight. That'll be followed by fairing jettison, 3 minutes and 23 seconds into flight. The core stage will complete its burn at 8 minutes and 40 seconds.
À tous de DDO, attention pour la séquence finale lanceur.
And there we have the DDO, the range operations officer, confirming the synchronized sequence has begun. Once the core stage separates from the upper stage, that will ignite, and that will burn until T plus 24 minutes and 56 seconds. Separation of the Heinrich-Hertz satellite will occur 29 minutes and 55 seconds into flight. The SILDA payload adapter will be released from the vehicle, and then the Syracuse 4B satellite will deploy 33 minutes and 32 seconds into flight. Some beautiful color in the sky at the Guiana Spaceport. Hoping for a spectacular final launch for the Ariane 5. This could be perfect conditions if the cloud cover is not too thick. Now under 6 minutes to launch. The liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen supplies in the main cryogenic stage are being verified at flight level. The pyrotechnics are being armed. T-minus 5 minutes. As far as we know, all is go for launch. T-minus 4 minutes and counting. Pressurization is now underway for the main cryogenic stages, liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen tanks. Three and a half minutes to launch. Just minutes away from the final flight of Europe's Ariane 5 rocket. T-minus 3 minutes and counting. Now 2.5 minutes to launch. The scheduled launch time has been loaded into the rocket's main computer system. The main stage tank pressures should now be approaching flight pressures. T-minus 2 minutes. At this point, the Vulcain main engine supply valves are being opened. The ground valves for engine chill down are being closed. In the final minute of the countdown, there will be a fast-paced series of events leading up to launch. That will begin at minus 37 seconds when the automated ignition sequence starts. The water suppression system at the launch pad will start at T-minus 30 seconds. At T-minus 22 seconds, overall control of the flight will be given to the onboard computer. The Vulcain main engine will be ready for ignition. Hydrogen chill down starts at T-minus 18 seconds. Hydrogen burn flares will fire. And at T-minus 4 seconds, onboard systems will take over.
Attention pour moins 1 minute.
Now 1 minute to launch. There you're seeing a view inside the control center.
Top à 0 moins 1 minute.
The DDO, the Director of Operations at the launch site. "20 seconds to launch." Let's listen in to the launch team for the final seconds of the countdown.
À tout de DDO, attention pour le décompte final. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, unité. Top, allumage moteur Vulcain. Allumage 2 EAP, décollage.
There it goes, the final Ariane 5 soaring away from the launch pad. Vehicle is rolling onto the proper heading. DDO reports propulsion nominal.
Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux.
Ariane 5 passing through the thin layer of cloud.
Propulsion nominale.
Everything appears to be going smoothly with tonight's launch. Ariane 5 heading out over the Atlantic Ocean now. About 1 minute left in the burn of the solid rocket boosters.
Trajectoire nominale. Trajectoire nominale.
Continuing to get reports from the DDO that the trajectory is nominal. Coming up on separation of the twin solid rocket boosters.
Propulsion nominale.
Sounds like we have a call from the DDO that the separation was nominal. A little difficult to see in this view, but I think you can see there are now 3 points of light in the sky. 2 solid rocket boosters falling back towards the ocean, and the core stage of the Ariane 5 continuing on its way to geostationary transfer orbit. You can still just about make out those solid rocket boosters tumbling in the sky over the Atlantic Ocean off the coast of South America. Coming up on the separation of the fairing. Because we've lost the views from the tracking cameras. Now looking inside the control center.
Séparation de la coiffe.
And then we have confirmation from the DDO that the fairing has separated from the vehicle. The Ariane 5 is now at an altitude of 127 kilometers and 258 kilometers downrange. You can see in the inset image an animation of the launcher. The Heinrich-Hertz satellite is visible at the top. Below it is the Silder payload adapter, and inside that is the Syracuse 4B satellite. There's about 4 minutes left in this burn. The Vulcan 2 engine at the base of the Ariane 5.
Trajectoire nominale.
Continuing to get calls from the DDO that the trajectory is nominal. Now at an altitude of 167 kilometers and more than 400 kilometers downrange, traveling at almost 3 kilometers per second.
Tous les paramètres à bord sont normaux. Il reste moins de 3 minutes de poussée de l'EPC. Trajectoire nominale.
Looks like we're seeing representatives of the Heinrich-Hertz mission team there in the control center. Less than 2 minutes left in the burn of the cryogenic first stage. I think we're now seeing views inside the Launch Control Center of the French military team who are monitoring the Syracuse 4B satellite. Ariane 5 is now over 225 kilometers high and over 900 kilometers downrange. And telemetry is now being relayed through the Natal ground station in Brazil.
Fin de mission sauvegarde, tous les paramètres sont normaux.
About 30 seconds away from the end of the first stage burn. Shortly after the cutoff of that engine, the stage will separate.
Séparation de l'étage principal cryotechnique.
There we have
Allumage de l'étage supérieur cryo.
Here we have the DDO's confirmation of stage separation and ignition of the upper stage. We saw that in the animation before the DDO confirmed those events. The Ariane 5 is now at an altitude of more than 233 kilometers. Downrange distance is 1,850 kilometers, traveling at 6.9 kilometers per second. Now 10.5 minutes into flight. Everything going well on this final flight of the Ariane 5.
Trajectoire nominale.
DDO confirming the trajectory is nominal. Got another 14 minutes left in this burn of the upper stage of the Ariane 5. The upper stage is powered by an HM7B engine. It uses the same cryogenic fuel as the first stage, liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. Produces 67 kilonewtons of thrust. Cryogenic upper stage is quite small compared to the rest of the vehicle. It stands just 4.7 meters tall. The vehicle is now 3,000 kilometers downrange at an altitude of 211 kilometers.
La télémesure par la station d'Ascension.
This stage in the flight, the rocket is losing some altitude as it trades height for velocity as it's accelerating the two satellites into orbit. Now at an altitude of 199 kilometers, traveling at 7.5 kilometers per second. We're continuing to get views inside the so-called fishbowl at the Kourou Launch Control Center, where officials are monitoring the launch. In the inset image, you can see the upper stage of the Ariane 5 with the firing. Another call from the DDO saying trajectory is nominal. The black barrel structure above the upper stage is the Silda payload adapter. Inside that is the Syracuse 4B satellite, the French military communication satellite on this mission. And then exposed to space above that is the Heinrich-Hertz satellite, which is a communications technology demonstration testbed that is being launched for the German government. About 9 minutes left in this burn.
Paramètres à bord sont
everything continuing to go well on this final flight of the Ariane 5, the 117th mission since 1996. The control position we're seeing in this video is the DDO, the Director of Operations at the Guiana Spaceport. Ariane 5 is now at an altitude of about 190 kilometers. Now about 4,900 kilometers downrange, approaching 8 kilometers per second in velocity. The HM7B engine on the upper stage continuing to fire. About 7 minutes left in this burn. Now looking at the screen at the front of the Launch Control Center, back to the view of the DDO who's calling out status reports on the progress of the mission. You can see the Heinrich-Hertz satellite operators who were closely watching the health of the satellite.
De la télémesure par la station de Libreville.
The DDO reports that telemetry is now being received by the ground station in Libreville and the Gabon. The Ariane 5 upper stage is now starting to gain altitude once more. Now at 213 kilometers, 6,000 kilometers downrange, traveling at 8.36 kilometers per second.
Il reste moins de 5 minutes de poussée de l'étage supérieur cryotechnique.
Once again, we're looking at the front board showing the ground track of the vehicle, animations showing the second stage firing. About 4 minutes left in the burn of that stage. Ariane 5 continues to climb, now at 265 kilometers in altitude.
Propulsion nominale.
DDO continues to report that the second stage is performing normally, now 7,000 kilometers downrange from the launch site in French Guiana. Velocity is now 8.75 kilometers per second. (290 kilometers in altitude). Now about 2 minutes left in the burn of the upper stage cryogenic engine. Altitude now 345 kilometers, downrange distance 7,750 kilometers. Velocity has now exceeded 9 kilometers per second. Graphs you see in the center of the screen there showing the altitude and downrange distance. The bottom of that screen, you can see the ground track, the rocket now traveling over Africa. And telemetry is now being relayed by a tracking station in Malindi, Kenya. Less than a minute left in this burn. Coming up on the cutoff of the second stage engine. We may have to wait a little while for the DDO, you see there in the center of the screen, to give his confirmation.
Extinction de l'étage supérieur cryotechnique.
And the DDO has confirmed the cutoff of the second stage engine, the HM7B cryogenic engine on the upper stage has
Début de la manœuvre
completed its work.
d'orientation au profit de Heinrich-Hertz satellite.
And the upper stage is now being oriented for the deployment of the first satellite, the Heinrich-Hertz satellite. There's going to be a coast phase where the stage will continue to drift in orbit. Separation of the satellite should occur at 29 minutes and 55 seconds. The upper stage is now passing 675 kilometers in altitude. It's traveling at about 9.3 kilometers per second. Downrange distance is 9,500 kilometers from Kourou. In this animation on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see the upper stage, the white upper stage of the Ariane 5 and the nozzle below it. That has now completed its work as far as boosting the satellites into their intended geostationary transfer orbit, but it still has to deploy the satellites. Above the upper stage is the SILDA payload adapter, and then above that is the Heinrich-Hertz satellite. That's a technology demonstration satellite for Germany. Inside the SILDA adapter is the Syracuse 4B satellite, which is a French military satellite that provides secure communications to French troops and aircraft and naval vessels. Altitude continuing to climb, now 930 kilometers in altitude, over 10,000 kilometers downrange.
La phase balistique se poursuit nominalement.
Post phase is going well according to the DDO. Less than a minute now from the deployment of the first satellite. Once again, that's the Heinrich-Hertz satellite, a technology testbed for the German Space Agency. Will be testing new communications technologies. Less than 30 seconds now to deployment of the first satellite. Standing by for confirmation of the satellite deploy.
Séparation Heinrich-Hertz satellite confirmée.
Now we have confirmation from the DDO that the first satellite, the Heinrich-Hertz satellite for Germany, has been released from the SILDA payload adapter. See in the animation, the separation of the satellite. Satellite was built on behalf of the German government Coming up next will be separation of the payload adapter, the cylinder payload adapter. This animation is the black barrel above the upper stage. Inside that is the Syracuse 4B satellite. That's the French military communication satellite, the second payload on tonight's mission.
Séparation, SILDA confirmé.
There's the DDO with confirmation that the SILDA payload adapter has separated.
Début de la manœuvre d'orientation au profit de
You see
Syracuse
that in this
4B.
animation on the right-hand side of your screen. Now the upper stage is changing its orientation for the deployment of the Syracuse 4B satellite. Being the Syracuse 4B launch team here. Traditionally, both when there are two satellites on board, the first satellite team does not celebrate until the second satellite has been deployed. Once again, data is being relayed back to Kourou via the Malindi tracking station in Kenya.
Séparation, Syracuse 4B confirmé.
And there we have confirmation of the Syracuse 4B satellite separation from the upper stage of the Ariane 5. The control room there breaking into applause. The final Ariane 5 mission is over. 2 payloads have been delivered to a geostationary transfer orbit. Looks like we're seeing a mascot there. The 2 satellites will now use their onboard propulsion to circularize the orbit. Currently, they're in a highly elliptical geostationary transfer orbit. So we just witnessed the 117th and final launch of an Ariane 5 rocket. The European workhorse rocket that was introduced in 1996. It is supposed to be replaced by the Ariane 6 rocket, the latest in the Ariane family. However, the first launch of the Ariane 6 won't be taking place until next year sometime. This was the 261st launch of an Ariane rocket.
Acquisition de la télémesure par le satellite Heinrich-Hertz.
Once again, you're looking inside the fishbowl where mission managers monitored today's launch. Behind the glass in the seats you can see are VIPs and customers. They're there to witness this historic final launch of the Ariane 5. And you're seeing there on the screen, Stefan Israel, the CEO of Ariane Space.
Germany and France, for France and Germany, and we really want to thank Heinrich-Hertz and the German Space Agency, Syracuse 4B, and the French MOD for their trust. Tonight, Ariane 5 has made the job.
And she's really performed flawlessly, hasn't she? The workhorse, as usual. I wonder how you're all feeling now.
I think what is important is the collective feeling we have. We are all here in the Jupiter control center, and it is really tonight, the success of a team, a European team, the success of Ariane Space, Ariane Group, the success of CNES, the success of ESA, the success of all our industrial partners in Europe. And you know that MT Aerospace in Germany is one of its industrial partners. It is a success of Team Europe tonight with this last and final Ariane.
Indeed, and they're performing the combined operations, aren't they, here at the pad for Ariane 6? And things are going well.
Yes, indeed. So Ariane 5 is now over, and Ariane 5 has perfectly finished its work, and it's really now a legendary launcher. But Ariane 6 is coming, and the team are now working hard here in the Guiana Space Center on what we call the combined test of Ariane 6. We have made the withdrawal of the mobile gantry the 22 of June. The team of Ariane Group and CNES are now working with ESA for the next step of the combined test, so we will have a very busy summer.
And tell us about the next launch then, Stefan.
So the next launch will be with our Vega launcher. It will be VV23, and we are also preparing this next launch. So during this summer, we have here in the Guiana Space Center key operations for Ariane 6, and also key operation for Vega.
Stefan, best of luck for all of those operations. Thank you once again, and congratulations to everybody and all of the teams. Stefan, thank you. So let's go now over to...
That was Stefan Israel of Ariane Space, commenting on the final flight of the Ariane 5.
Peter Greff, you are director at the German Space Center, the DLR. This is your first time in Kourou. How do you feel now? And can you explain what are the next steps ahead of us for the satellite before being operated by your teams?
Well, thank you. So it's what an excitement. I'm thrilled actually to see what happens here, how precise the satellites were injected. So this is really amazing. Congratulations for this perfect, spectacular launch. And
thank you.
Thank you very much to all contributing teams that helped to insert our satellite into this transfer orbit. So the satellite is doing a pioneering work for us because it offers a platform for research done by institutes in Germany and the German industry. So we are looking forward to an operating system within the next few days in the geostationary orbit. And I know that our teams on ground are working hard and are very busy to make that happen in the next days. So Well, thanks again to Ariane 5, this perfect launch. This last mission of Ariane 5 is over. For us, it just started.
Just starting, indeed. Thank you very much, Peter. Talking about European and German industry, we have here Alexander Schneider. You are the program lead with OHB, the company which designed and built Heinrich-Hertz satellite. Also your first time in Kourou and the end of a tremendous industrial journey, I suppose. Could you tell us more about what your teams did over the past months to make this program a reality? Alexander.
Well, first of all, thanks to Ariane Space for this beautiful launch. It was really nominal, and it was really a pleasure. And in the last weeks, you asked, we were here in Kourou after we finished our environmental test campaign, and we were working together with Ariane Space and Syracuse team, had daily meetings. It was always very professional and very hospitality here. I enjoyed my time here, and thanks to the teams, it was really a great pleasure. And also, I'm very honored to be part of the last Ariane 5 launch. Of course, it's a French-German mission. We see the two satellites, and that's something very special to me. I'd like to thank the German ministries and DLR for the trust in OHB to build this satellite. And of course, I would like to give a big thanks to the OHB colleagues at home, which did over the past years with all their passion and professionalism this hard work. And of course now we have kind of half-time, and we will go now for 15 years operations of the spacecraft, and I can confirm we have acquisition of signal.
Great, this is a fantastic news. Big kudos to the team. Tonnerre d'applaudissements pour Heinrich-Hertz et les équipes. Vielen Dank, meine Herren. There were two satellites on board today on tonight's launch. We've talked just here about Heinrich-Hertz satellite, and I'm now inviting on stage three representatives from the team Syracuse 4B, the second satellite that have reached space thanks to Ariane 5 today, and we have another confirmations ongoing live. So let me start with you, General Sayeg. General, you are Director of Space Programs within the French Armament General Directorate, the DGA. Could you please tell us a bit about what Syracuse 4B will bring to the French Armed Forces, namely to those who are engaged in operations on the field?
With pleasure, but just before I would like to thank you and thanks all the teams. It's my first stay here in Kourou for the launch of military satellites, and each time someone used the name of Space Family, and I really feel it. And once again, thanks to Ariane Group, to Ariane Espace, to CNES, it was a wonderful launch, even if it is the last one. And for the French Armed Forces, it was very important to succeed this launch. So Syracuse 4B, it's the new model for the military communication satellite. He will meet up his little brother, Syracuse 4A, which was launched in October 21. And it's just a next generation communication satellite, which is very accurate, border coverage for our forces, and it is for the three forces, the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force. And as it is a military satellite, obviously it is protected against more or less everything which can occur, from nuclear event, cyber defense, or even jamming. So it's a wonderful piece of technology, French and European technology, and he's just beginning his launch. He's worked to geostationary orbital, because it's using an electrical motor, so it will take 6 months to go there.
Thank you. We wish the best to Syracuse to reach the destination. Thank you very much, General. Next to you is François Gaulier, the Senior Vice President Telecommunications and Navigation Systems with Airbus, the prime manufacturer of Syracuse 4B. So, François, what makes this satellite a very important program and mission also to Airbus?
Yes, Gregory. In fact, it's a very, very important mission for us, and I'd like to start by thanking the DGA for giving us their trust, because for the first time, Airbus France is going to deliver satellites to the armed forces. We are not doing that alone. We are doing that with what we call the Équipe de France, the French team, with many partners, starting by Thales Alenia Space, but many, many others, French suppliers like Safran and many others. We are also very pleased to bring into this program by Airbus all the technology, our industrial know-how to make the satellite what is Syracuse 4B super resilient, robust, and super safe. Now the story is not over. It's just starting for another part of the mission. The team indeed has received the telemetry in the control center, and they will work for the next 6 months to bring the satellite into orbit. So another team that will dedicate their time to bring the mission up there. Now let me thank all the people who have worked on the program. Wherever they are in France, from Airbus and other suppliers or other partners, it has been a tremendous work to go up to this mission now, spending months, weeks, days and nights to bring the satellite now into mission. Thanking the people here in Kourou as well from Airbus, who have spent many weeks, a few more than expected, by the way, to be ready, green light for the launch tonight. So thanks for them. And now saying a big hello to the team in Toulouse as well, because we have gathered all the people in the Cité de l'Espace to celebrate this event with all our partners, our customers, everyone into this event. So enjoy the event, enjoy the night. It's a unique moment for our country, a unique moment for Airbus as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much, François. Thank you. Talking, I think the team Syracuse 4B, the Team de France, deserve some kudos. Talking about the team, let's leave the floor to Jean-Baptiste Teinturier, Director of Military Telecommunications with Thales Alenia Space. So Jean-Baptiste, Syracuse is not only about tonight's satellite, right? It's a wider program in which Thales Alenia Space, along with Airbus and other industrial partners, play an important role. Could you tell us a bit more about this role?
Yes, indeed. Syracuse, in fact, is a telecommunication program for the French armed forces that has been designed by Thales to connect all the forces anytime, anywhere, under the worst conditions. We are very proud to have been part of the Syracuse program for 40 years. We have lived with the Syracuse 1 first program, and now we are at the fourth generation of Syracuse that we are manufacturing with our partners of Airbus. And I must say that the collaboration is very good with Airbus. Like François said, I think we form a very good French team, French-based team. Tonight, I would like also, like you have both done, thank all the teams. I would like first to thank DGA and the Armed Forces who have launched this program in 2016. I would like also to thank the CNES that has supported the program for all those years. I would like also to thank the teams that have worked together, both Airbus and Thales team, because the program was long and difficult. And of course, I would like to thank Ariane for this beautiful launch tonight. Our bird is very beautiful. It's now flying to its final destination. And I would like to say, I would like to wish a long lifetime to Syracuse 4B.
Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup, messieurs. Thank you also to all the teams who deserve big kudos here in the room. Un tonnerre d'applaudissements encore une fois pour les équipes de Syracuse and also Heinrich-Hertz Satellite. You mentioned it, our role with Ariane Space is to open roads into space to allow you, our customers, to reach their destination. This is again the time for tonight, so thank you very much. I've been very pleased, and we all very pleased and proud to share the passion that prevailed on this final Ariane 5 launch, a legend that is now passing the baton to Ariane 6 in an iconic space continuum. So over to you, Katie, for the end of the show. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, Gregory. And yes, indeed, the adventure certainly continues.
So we've now heard from the customers on today's launch. Happy that their satellites successfully deployed into a geostationary transfer orbit. The launch team now able to relax. It sounded like we'd received confirmation of acquisition of signal. The 2 satellites is always an important milestone during the following the separation of the satellites. This is the Heinrich-Hertz team from Germany we're seeing now. So with that, we're going to wrap up our coverage. There's one last look at ELA-3, the launch zone at the Guiana Space Center, where the final Ariane 5 lifted off at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on its final launch after 27 years of service. And here's a replay of that liftoff. Once again, you're watching a replay of the final flight of the Ariane 5. Took off on its 117th mission at 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. local time in Kourou, French Guiana. That's 2200 UTC. Ariane 5 has been in service for 27 years. Was delivering 2 satellites into geostationary transfer orbit. The Heinrich-Hertz mission, a satellite communications demonstration testbed, and the Syracuse 4B satellite for the French armed forces that provides secure military communications. Those 2 satellites were deployed a little over about a half hour into the flight, successfully deployed into geostationary transfer orbit. So with that, we're going to conclude our coverage of flight VA261, the final flight of the Ariane 5 in the history books. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back at the weekend for a Falcon 9 launch from Cape Canaveral. Until then, good night.